have just a few slides, but to give the introduction, I'm following more specifically what Natasha was saying, but from an in-house perspective, and particularly about from compliance perspective. Because usually legal and compliance are either in same department or they are double-headed by one person. The interesting about compliance is that, maybe not very interesting, but something that made it from being a very luxurious concept to a legal concept is that it might be followed by litigation, it might be followed by the lawsuits, and these lawsuits can be significantly high for the companies. So maybe that's the legal enforcement of those areas. So either as an in-house legal or as an external counsel that you are providing services to a multinational company, and in this area a EU or a US company, it's a necessity to know at least what it should cover. EU has been, as Natasha was saying, EU has been very much advanced in the data protection privacy rules, and it all started from some years back. But what we are seeing is that it's getting more and more, the geographical area is getting more and more expanded. It includes, first it was including the EU companies that either working in EU or outside. Now it is expanding to the EU personnel that they're working in any company in area. So in this region of GCC, Middle East, UAE, we are it's a requirement of the globalization that all the companies have many EU personnels. So all of these regulations would apply to the same person, even if the company is operating either in UAE or even if in Iran, but the regulation would be the same. So as a requirement, all these corporates, they are required to, if they do not have it at the moment in their compliance category, they're required to have a data protection, privacy data protection officer. And that officer needs to be documented, needs to be trained, and needs to know that exactly what are the sensitive personal data, what are the personal data, and how that 7 principle that Natasha was going through, I mean, from the consent, ensuring, noticing, receiving the specific consent, making sure that who has access to, what's the purpose of getting that information, who will access it in the company or even outside the company, like the marketing agencies, and also on what level of security would that data would be protected. So finally, I have my slide. So these are these 7 principles that if for a company that is acting in EU outside, or a EU company working outside, or a company that has EU employees, they need to make sure that these areas, as of May 2017, will be fully enforced. They will be trained, they will be documented, and they ensure that they are working fully in compliance with that principles. Basically, that the EU data protection privacy is addressing export of personal data, not only inside the EU, but also outside of the EU. It tries to protect the personal data wherever it might goes around. And the most important thing is that it might end up to a litigation, as Shihab and Natasha were saying, and the amount that the penalty or the sanctions that is considered can be really high. If you look at the turnover of the global companies, it can cover from 2 to 4% of the total turnover if there is a lawsuit and if there is a violation of that protection of the personal data within the company. So it's as I said, there has been this regulation, but there is an update in a new regulation. So there is a new requirement. One of the requirements would be the data protection officer in the company. And also, as I said, there would be a new sanctions. So the 4% turnover is the maximum considered sanctions, but the rest, but below that also is specified in the new law. And then with that, I'm going to go quickly with UAE, because I'm saying UAE, but it would cover region even. I mean, I'm coming from Iran. I've been working in Europe and UAE, but also in that area. These countries, the regulations are more or less the same. So very specifically, at this stage, we do not have that personal data protection privacy, but we do have the privacy regulations that breaching the privacy of the people, especially the family, what they call it, the family privacy is considered as a violation. Either it is disclosing, or either it is included in a cyber crimes, like hacking to receive the information. In Dubai, I'm sure Gloria will go through the details. Dubai has also its own jurisdictions, even in a different free zones. So they're more or less, some of them are closest to EU, some of them are far from it, but in generally speaking, while we are working with EU and US, while we have multinational companies in the region, while we have EU employees in the region, the same rule will apply. So this is a good thing that gradually this region also from business-wise will be going forward closer to the global standards from that perspective too. And I'm just skipping it if I'm allowed, because I think you're going to details, Gloria, you're right? And the DIFC and the but because in Dubai, we have also different jurisdiction, and there are different rules, but specifically DIFC, it has its own jurisdiction of the data protection privacy, and if you can say it from legal-wise, it's much more closer to the EU standards. So if your company is established in the IFC, then you need to again be compliant with that regulations. Also, in Dubai healthcare system, healthcare free zone, it's because it might cover the sensitive data, so it has its different kind of regulations also to make sure that those that data received by mostly healthcare professionals or the pharmaceutical companies, they are received with a consent. They are protected. Non-necessary people, non-authorized people have access to it, and most importantly, it is not disclosed for any kind of abuse or misuse. From an in-house perspective, from compliance perspective, when you're dealing with the companies, usually, there are different departments like HR or marketing that they always come up with very creative ideas, and they really forget about these kind of regulations. They try to make up some systems, some facilities to get more and more data from people, like from those that accidentally visited a website, then to communicate with them, and then to get back to them and say, by the way, we know that, for example, you're this age, now we have this product, it might be suitable for you. So when you come with that kind of your approach with this creative idea, don't kill the idea, but try to remember that there are some restrictions, there are some compliance area that it might cost the company a lot, and it might take the company in a lengthy litigation and lawsuit. So this is something like other compliance area, that is something that needs to be in the back of an in-house lawyer and also an external counsel who are usually on a retainer and advisory basis with the big corporates.